So this zone of death, right? We're talking about this potential loophole and, how we deal with it, and what, if anything, could happen. So there's been an actual case, and it came about early mid-2000s. There was a poacher standing in Yellowstone. He fired a shot at an elk and dragged the head of that elk into the park, and because of that, he was indicted in the District of Wyoming. And the long and the short of it is, when you're in trouble with the federal government, there's an old saying, goes back to the Prohibition days, you don't want to make a federal case out of it. The bottom line is, when you're calling for a jury trial in a place that remote, or anywhere, right, where the United States Attorney's Office is bringing the unlimited resources of the U.S. Attorney General, the unlimited subpoena power of the U.S. Grand Jury, and essentially unlimited financial resources against you, individual citizen, can get crushed by the financial fear of what it'll cost you to stand on your rights. And then, of course, there, is the very likely overwhelming amount of evidence against the defendant, the accused. And again, I have some stories about that from my own experience, but the United States government usually doesn't take a case on unless it's stacks of evidence. They are dialed in, and they have very strong cases, very compelling cases. Bottom line is, though, this zone of death loophole was these prosecutors and this district court judge was aware of it, and that there would be a plea deal which included provisions barring appealing any precise issue related to whether he was deprived of his Sixth Amendment right. Now, of course, when you take a plea bargain, you generally waive any right to appeal, and you have no right to appeal anything. Whether this plea specifically addressed this issue that we're talking about with the zone of death, that you're prohibited from raising a complaint on appeal, that you were deprived of your Sixth Amendment right to jurors in that area and in that federal district, that may have just been part of the broader plea deal, which is usually inclusive of that. Whether it was specifically listed in this plea bargain or not would be interesting to know. I don't know that for a fact, but it certainly seems to be that the way that our government is dealing with it right now is to make sure that anybody who takes a plea specifically waives the right to complain about that. Anyhow, what can we do to fix it? Does it really need to be fixed? And I think right now that our United States, we got things going on in the world. We've got matters that are so overwhelming, a global pandemic, another ground war in Europe. At the end of the day, the zone of death really just isn't landing on the radars as something that needs to be fixed, because most of the time it can be fixed through the criminal justice process and a plea bargain, right, which eliminates the right to appeal and thus raise this complaint. Because let's face it, when you're committing crimes on federal land, that means you're going to be investigated by federal authorities, and the old saying goes, you don't want to make a federal case out of it. More on true crime from the studio. Thanks for joining us.